This preacher loves his religion and has always been a man of faith, devoted to his church, his congregation, and his vows. But behind his steady hands and measured words, something darker was lurking, something that would soon drive him to a breaking point. This is the story of a man whose devotion to his faith couldn't stop the dark twist his life was about to take. The story of a marriage that lasted just one day and ended in murder. Subscribe and stay with us as we uncover the shocking truth. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a beginning, not an ending. Pastor Dion Waverly had waited his entire life for this moment, a union blessed by faith and witnessed by hundreds. But just hours after exchanging vows, everything unraveled. By morning, his wife was dead. A woman admired for her strength, a judge respected in the courtroom, now lying lifeless in a honeymoon suite meant for love, not tragedy. Why did a man of God, a leader devoted to faith and discipline, demand a divorce before the sun could set on his wedding day? What happened behind closed doors that left one of them breathing and the other gone forever? This is more than a case of love gone wrong. This is a night that turned a husband into a suspect and a bride into a mystery. Pastor Dion Waverly was more than a preacher. He was a man of unwavering principles. His sermons filled the pews of New Light Baptist Church, his voice commanding both devotion and discipline. He preached about faith, commitment, and the sanctity of marriage. For years, he had remained steadfast in his beliefs, waiting for the right woman, the one God had chosen for him. Judge Saw Caldwell was a force in the courtroom. Sharp, relentless, and unyielding, she had built a reputation that few dared to challenge. Her rulings carried weight, her presence demanded respect. In the world of law, she was feared. In the public eye, she was admired. But in her personal life, she was alone. Marriage had always been secondary, an afterthought to ambition. Then their worlds collided. A charity gala, a chance encounter, an instant connection that neither of them expected. To those who witnessed it, it felt like fate. A preacher and a judge, two figures of authority bound by something deeper than admiration. 6 months later, they stood before an altar. The ceremony was grand, attended by religious leaders, legal giants, and political powerhouses. A union blessed in the eyes of God and the law. The perfect match, or so it seemed. Because beneath the surface of vows and celebration, beneath the speeches about love and destiny, there was something else, something waiting to be revealed. And Pastor Waverly was about to find out. The city lights of Houston stretched beyond the window, casting a golden glow into the honeymoon suite. A bottle of champagne rested in an ice bucket, 2 glasses beside it. The bed was perfectly made, draped in crisp white sheets. Everything was prepared for a night of intimacy, of promises fulfilled. For Pastor Dion Waverly, this was the moment he had waited for his entire life. A night he had honored in faith, in restraint, in devotion to the values he preached. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the air conditioning. He stepped forward, heart steady, anticipation thick in the air. But then, he stopped. A sharp inhale, a flicker of hesitation. Something wasn't right. The air had shifted, thickening with something he couldn't place. An odor, strong, unnatural. It clung to the room, heavy and unshakable. His brow furrowed as he glanced around, his mind searching for an explanation. The hotel, the sheets, the carpeting? He tried to dismiss it, telling himself it was nothing. Just nerves, just exhaustion from the long day. But it wasn't nothing. He turned toward his bride, ready to push past the unease, to embrace the moment they had both waited for. But as he moved closer, the truth became undeniable. It was coming from her. His breath hitched, his body tensed. He took a step back, a reaction so sudden it startled even him. His heart pounded in his chest, his throat dry. This wasn't just discomfort. This wasn't something he could ignore. His mind raced, grasping for logic, for understanding. But the deeper he inhaled, the stronger it became. An unshakable truth settling in his gut. This was more than he ever could have imagined, more than he was prepared to face. The silence between them stretched, heavy and unrelenting. Pastor Waverly stood still, his breath uneven, his mind clouded with unease. Across from him, his wife watched him closely. Her eyes searched his face, reading the shift in his expression, sensing the change in the air. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice measured, cautious. He didn't answer. He couldn't. She took a step closer, but he instinctively moved back. His body recoiled before his mind could stop it. The reaction was visceral, involuntary. His hands clenched at his sides, his stomach twisted in knots. His heart pounded against his ribs. That's when she knew. A slow exhale, a change in her posture. The guarded look in her eyes flickered, as if she had been waiting for this moment, dreading it, but expecting it all the same. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. "I should have told you before." The weight of those words pressed down on the room. The way she said it, calm, resigned, sent a chill through him. He didn't want to hear it. He wasn't ready to, but she told him anyway. She spoke of her past, the life she had kept buried beneath the polished exterior, the flawless reputation, a past filled with names, powerful names, men who had sat across from her in courtrooms, who had shaken her hand at galas, who had whispered promises behind closed doors. There were a lot of them, she admitted. More than 50. A pit formed in his stomach. Judges, politicians, attorneys. The very men who had built the city, who had passed its laws and enforced its justice, and she had been with them all. His hands felt cold. His mind struggled to catch up. "That was before," she continued, "before I became who I am now, before I realized what I really wanted, before you." He wanted to believe her. He wanted to tell himself that the past didn't matter. But there was something else, something she wasn't saying. She hesitated, her fingers tightening against her palm. When she spoke again, her voice was lower, softer, as if saying it out loud would make it real all over again. "I've had medical issues." A pause, a moment that stretched into eternity. Treatments, surgeries, infections that never fully went away. His breath stalled in his throat. "I've had to go through a lot to fix myself," she said, her tone careful, measured. "But I wanted you to know the truth." The truth. The word echoed in his head, but nothing felt real. This wasn't the woman he thought he married. The woman standing before him wasn't the image he had carried in his mind, the version he had built his future around. That woman had never existed. His pulse roared in his ears. His chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven breaths. Everything, the wedding, the vows, the promises, felt like a lie unraveling at his feet. He could still smell it. He could still feel the weight of it pressing against him. His vision blurred at the edges, his thoughts spiraling into something he couldn't control. There was only one way forward, only one way to make this stop. And then, he made his decision. One that would change both of their lives forever. A heavy silence lingered in the air, stretching between them like an unspoken truth neither could take back. Pastor Waverley's chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, his hands clenched at his sides. His eyes, once filled with devotion, now held something else. Disbelief, revulsion, finality. "I can't do this." The words left his lips with a sharp edge, cutting through the silence like a blade. He saw the way her expression shifted, how her brows pulled together, her lips parted slightly as if she had misheard him. But she hadn't. "What?" Her voice was steady, but there was an undercurrent beneath it, something just beneath the surface. "What do you mean?" He didn't waver. He couldn't. The weight of everything pressed down on him. Her confession, the smell that clung to the air, the past she had so carefully hidden. He needed to leave. He needed to get out. "I want a divorce." A sharp inhale, a flicker of something in her eyes. Shock, then anger, then something deeper, something raw. "You're serious," she whispered. He nodded. His silence was an answer she wasn't ready to hear. Her face paled, but her stance hardened. The woman who had ruled courtrooms with an iron will was now standing before him, unflinching, unshaken. "No!" The word was final, absolute. He took a step toward the door, but she moved faster, planting herself between him and his only way out. "You're not leaving." "Move," he said, his voice low, firm. No, she repeated, her tone sharper this time. You don't get to humiliate me. Not like this. Not after everything. Her hands trembled, but her stance did not. She wasn't pleading. She was demanding. She had spent her entire life controlling every situation, every outcome. And this was slipping through her fingers. He stepped forward again, trying to push past her, but she caught his arm. Her nails dug into his skin. The air grew thick with tension, the quiet hum of the city outside drowned out by the pounding in his ears. You don't understand, she said, her voice rising. You think you can just walk away? I have to. No, you don't. And then it happened. A sharp slap cracked through the air, her palm colliding with his face in a sudden burst of fury. His head snapped to the side, skin stinging from the impact. His vision blurred for half a second before his instincts took over. He shoved her. It wasn't planned, it wasn't calculated. It was a reaction, a desperate move to break free. She staggered backward, her heels skidding against the polished floor. Her hand reached out, grasping at nothing, fingers clawing at empty air. And then, crack. The sound was sickening, a sharp, hollow thud as the back of her skull struck the jagged edge of the nightstand. Her body crumpled, folding in on itself as she collapsed onto the floor. The room held its breath. A second passed, then another. Stillness. Blood began to seep into the carpet, a dark pool spreading beneath her motionless frame. The soft hum of the city outside was the only sound that remained. Pastor Waverly stood frozen, his own breath strangled in his throat. His gaze locked onto her, waiting, praying for movement, for a sign that she was still there, still breathing, still anything. But there was nothing. Nothing but silence. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no movement, just the dull hum of the air conditioner and the distant murmur of the city below. The hotel room, once filled with the warmth of candlelight and the promise of a new beginning, had turned cold. Pastor Waverly stood frozen, his body locked in place, his breath caught in his throat. The sight before him felt unreal. Judge Saw Caldwell, the woman he had just vowed to spend his life with, lay crumpled on the floor, her body still, her eyes closed. Sa? His voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. Hey, get up. She didn't move. He dropped to his knees, shaking her shoulders, his fingers pressing against her arms, her face. His mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. Sa! Louder this time, more urgent. Come on, wake up. Nothing. He leaned in, his ear hovering over her lips, straining to hear, to feel the faintest breath. His fingers fumbled against her wrist, searching desperately for a pulse. The seconds dragged, stretching into something unbearable. But there was no breath, no pulse, no life. The panic hit fast, slamming into him like a freight train. His own heartbeat thundered in his ears, his vision blurred. His hands shook as he pulled her up slightly, his fingers tangling in her hair, sticky with something warm. When he pulled back, he saw it. Blood. Dark, spreading. A deep gash where her head had struck the nightstand. The sight of it sent a sickening wave through his stomach. Oh, God! His breath came in ragged gasps now, his mind racing, trying to grasp what had just happened. He had pushed her. He hadn't meant to. He hadn't meant for this. No, 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 he muttered, rocking slightly, his hands gripping her shoulders. Please, please, wake up. He pressed his fingers to her throat again. Nothing. He checked her wrist, her chest. Still nothing. He couldn't feel the passage of air, couldn't sense the rise and fall of breath. The weight of it crashed into him like a force he wasn't strong enough to withstand. She was gone. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He scrambled to his feet, knocking over the champagne glasses on the table as he lunged for the nightstand. His hands were slick with sweat as he grabbed the hotel phone, fingers trembling as he dialed. 911. 911, what's your emergency? She's... His voice broke. He swallowed, tried again, but the words stuck in his throat. She's not breathing. My wife. I think she hit her head. There's blood. She's not moving. Sir, stay calm. Can you tell me your location? Hilton Grand, downtown. The honeymoon suite. Please, she's not breathing. Is she responsive at all? Number I don't know what to do. Sir, listen to me. Paramedics are on their way. Stay with her. Try CPR if you... The words barely registered. The phone slipped from his hand, landing with a hollow thud on the carpet. His body felt disconnected, his limbs heavy. He turned back to Sa, still on the floor, the blood soaking deeper into the plush fibers beneath her head. He should do something, try something. But all he could do was stare. The sirens came quickly, too quickly. Flashing red and blue lights painted the hotel room walls as the sound of heavy boots echoed down the hallway. A pounding knock at the door. "Houston PD, open up!" Waverly moved slowly, his legs unsteady beneath him, as he walked to the door and opened it. The officers barely spared him a glance before they swept into the room. One paramedic rushed to Sa's body, kneeling beside her, gloved hands moving swiftly, checking for vitals. Another officer took a step toward Waverly, eyes scanning him from head to toe. His suit was still pressed, his wedding ring still on his finger. His face was pale, his eyes wide, his body motionless except for the slight tremor in his hands. He looked like a man who had just seen something he would never be able to forget. "Sir, step back," one of the paramedics ordered, though it wasn't needed. Waverly didn't move closer. He didn't move at all. Seconds passed, then minutes, and then, finally, "She's gone!" The words cut through the air like a final judgment. The paramedic pulled back, shaking his head slightly. The officers exchanged a glance. Then one of them stepped forward, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. "Pastor Waverly, you're under arrest." The cold metal snapped around his wrist before he had a chance to react. The weight of it settled in. His breath hitched. His knees felt weak. His wedding day had ended in handcuffs. His honeymoon suite had become a crime scene. His wife was gone, and there was no taking it back. The flashing lights of patrol cars painted streaks of red and blue across the hotel's pristine walls. The once luxurious honeymoon suite was now sealed off with crime scene tape. Investigators moved methodically, collecting evidence, taking photos, documenting every inch of the room where a wedding had turned into a crime scene. On the floor, the outline of Judge Saw Caldwell's body remained, her blood still seeping into the carpet. A nightstand, its edge smeared with crimson, stood as silent proof of the final impact that ended her life. In the interrogation room, Pastor Dion Waverly sat motionless, wrists still bound in steel, his mind replaying the moment over and over. The shove, the fall, the sound of her skull meeting wood, the way the room had gone completely silent. "Tell us exactly what happened," the detective across from him said, voice firm, expression unreadable. "From the beginning." His throat felt dry. He inhaled, shakily, trying to steady himself. Then slowly, he spoke. "She wouldn't let me leave." "And you pushed her?" A pause. "She hit me first." "Did you push her in self-defense?" I just needed her to move." "But she fell. She hit her head." "I didn't mean to hurt her." The detective leaned forward, watching him carefully. "Pastor Waverly, do you believe this was an accident?" He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The forensic team combed through the evidence. There were no signs of a weapon, no clear indications of premeditation, but there were bruises, defensive wounds on Waverly's arms, the faint imprint of Caldwell's nails where she had grabbed him, a slap mark on his face. There had been a struggle, but was it self-defense, or was it something more? The autopsy confirmed the cause of death, blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in an immediate fatal brain hemorrhage. The toxicology report came back clean. No alcohol, no drugs, nothing that could explain a sudden loss of balance. The injury was consistent with a fall caused by force, a shove, a moment of impact that changed everything. The prosecution wasted no time. The charges came swiftly, manslaughter. They didn't argue that he had planned to kill her. They didn't need to. Intent wasn't the question. The fact remained, his hands had caused the push had caused the fall, and the fall had caused her death. In the eyes of the law, that was enough. Outside the courthouse, the city was divided. Some saw a man who had acted in fear, caught in a moment of desperation. A man who had been blindsided on his wedding night, provoked, backed into a corner, trying only to escape. A tragedy, not a crime. Others saw something different, a man who had spent his life preaching discipline, yet had been unable to control himself in the moment it mattered most. A man whose disgust had boiled into something reckless, whose hands had struck harder than he intended. A man who let emotion override reason. She pushed him first, and some argued. It wasn't murder. She's dead because of him, others countered. That's all that matters. Pastor Dion Waverly had once been a man admired by thousands, a shepherd guiding his congregation through faith and righteousness. Now he was a man awaiting trial, his reputation shattered, his future uncertain. One question remained. Was he a victim of circumstance or the cause of his wife's death? The trial loomed ahead, but no verdict could erase the night that ended it all. No ruling could change the fact that a woman lay lifeless on the floor of a honeymoon suite. No sentence could undo the final push that sent her crashing into the nightstand. The questions lingered unanswered, echoing through the halls of public opinion. Did Pastor Dion Waverly act in self-defense? Had he truly feared for his safety, reacting only to escape? Or had something else taken hold, something deeper, something unspoken? Had the shock of his wife's confession, the weight of her past, ignited something in him that he could not control? And what about Judge Saw Caldwell? Was she the aggressor, refusing to let him leave, forcing his hand in an argument that spiraled beyond reason? Or was she the true victim, a woman who had finally opened herself up, who had let her guard down for the man she believed would stand by her side? Had she underestimated him? Had she overestimated his love? One moment, one act, 1 second that determined the end of a life, the destruction of another. Was this truly an accident, or was there something more? The courtroom will decide the law, but the truth, that may never be known. What do you think? Was this a tragic mistake, or something far worse? Let us know in the comments. And for more shocking true crime stories, stay tuned.